polar bear couldn't save her cub. You won't believe who came to the rescue. While on his routine morning patrol in the unforgiving Arctic wilderness, Reserve Ranger Nathan Harris was startled by a piercing cry. The bitter frost bit into the air, and the howling wind whipped up snow, shrouding the landscape in a veil of poor visibility. Nathan followed the sound to a natural ice bridge over a partially frozen river, where he found a polar bear cub trapped in a deep pit. The cub was weak from cold and exhaustion, with bloodied paws from its desperate attempts to escape the steep, icy walls deliberately smoothed by poachers. Above, the mother bear struggled helplessly, ensnared in a steel net that tightened painfully around her injured paw with every movement. The pit was dangerously deep, its edges slick with frozen water, and the thermometer on Nathan's watch showed plummeting temperatures. Snow accumulating in the pit began to form an icy crust on the cub's fur as its cries grew weaker. Nearby, the mother bear could only watch, her injuries worsening as she strained against the firmly anchored net. Realizing the cub's critical condition, Nathan acted quickly. He retrieved climbing gear from his backpack, including a sturdy rope and a hoisting system, and prepared to attempt a rescue, knowing every second was vital in the unforgiving Arctic cold. Nathan's hands began to go numb from the cold, even in heated gloves. He methodically assembled the hoisting system, securing one end of the rope to a large ice outcrop. Time was against him. Every minute lost reduced the cub's chance of survival. His first attempt to throw a loop was unsuccessful. The icy rope didn't handle well with his frozen hands. The cub weakly jerked when the loop touched its side. The second attempt also failed as the loop slipped off the cub's snow-covered fur. Suddenly, Nathan heard the distant hum of snowmobiles. It seemed the poachers were returning to check their traps. The ranger sped up his actions, realizing he had less time. The third attempt was successful, the loop securely wrapped around the cub. Lifting it required great care. Any sudden movement could hurt the weakened cub. Nathan slowly pulled the rope, trying to keep the cub away from the sharp ice edges. The hum of snowmobiles grew louder. With a final pull, Nathan brought the cub to the surface, its small body coated in ice and breathing irregularly. A quick examination revealed minor cuts, but no severe injuries. Hypothermia was the real danger. Gently, Nathan wrapped the cub in a thermal blanket from his backpack. The exhausted cub didn't resist, its half-closed eyes reflecting trust. He hid the cub behind a snowbank for safety before hurrying to the mother bear's aid. The mother bear watched Nathan calmly as he worked on the complex tamper-proof lock binding her paw. Despite the freezing cold and his trembling fingers, Nathan used a multi-tool with methodical precision, careful not to tighten the cables further. The sound of snowmobiles grew louder, accompanied by the voices of approaching poachers, spurring him to work faster. Every second counted as tension rose in the icy wilderness. The first level of security was disabled after a few minutes. Nathan heard a quiet click inside the lock. One of the blocking mechanisms was deactivated. There were 2 more levels to go, and time was running out. The poachers appeared suddenly. 3 armed men emerged from the snowstorm. The leader, a tall man with a gray beard, was the first to notice the empty trap. His face twisted in anger when he saw the tracks in the snow. The second poacher immediately headed toward the captured mother bear. Nathan continued to work on the lock, trying to stay hidden behind the massive bear. His fingers instinctively found the right mechanism. The second level of security was bypassed. Only the final, most difficult one remained. One of the poachers spotted movement and raised his gun. "Hey, someone's there," he shouted, stepping forward. Nathan knew that time was running out. His fingers found the last mechanism in the lock. A sudden gust of wind lifted a veil of snow, momentarily blinding the poachers. That brief moment was all he needed. The lock finally gave way. The sound of the falling chain echoed in the frosty air. Sensing her freedom, the mother bear rose to her full height. Her appearance was like a snow-covered mountain. Her massive white body towered over the men, and her eyes burned with fury. The poachers froze in shock. Nathan took advantage of the confusion and disappeared into the blizzard. Behind him, he'd heard the bear's powerful roar and the frightened cries of the men scattering in all directions. The ranger quickly made his way to where he had hidden the cub, knowing that the mother would find her cub by scent. From a distance, Nathan watched as the mother bear, after driving off the poachers, quickly found her cub. She carefully lifted it and carried it deep into the reserve to safer wintering places. The next 2 months were tense as Nathan remained on high alert, knowing the poachers wouldn't forgive him for thwarting their hunt. Strange snowmobile tracks began appearing in remote parts of the reserve, as if someone were tracking his movements. On a bitterly cold day, Nathan stumbled upon fresh signs of poacher activity: trampled snow, cigarette butts, and snowmobile tracks. As he documented the evidence with his camera, he was unaware of the danger closing in. A sudden pop, the sound of a blank shot, startled him. Before he could react, 4 armed men surrounded him, led by the gray-bearded poacher he recognized from before. The leader sneered, mocking Nathan's attempts to play hero as his men closed in. A brutal blow to his back knocked him to the ground, and strong ropes cut into his wrists as they restrained him. The poachers searched his backpack, discarding his equipment and disabling his radio and phone. With cold efficiency, they marched Nathan through the snow for over an hour, deeper into an unpatrolled and desolate part of the reserve. The biting frost and growing blizzard compounded his despair as Nathan realized the poachers had chosen a place where no help would come. Suddenly, one of the criminals stopped sharply. His face turned pale. He had heard something through the howling blizzard. The others froze, straining to see through the snow. The sound repeated, a deep, rumbling growl that chilled the blood. A huge white figure emerged as if from nowhere. The bear moved silently, despite her impressive size. Nathan immediately recognized her by the scar on her paw. It was the very animal he had saved 2 months earlier. "Don't move," the leader whispered, slowly raising his gun. But the bear had already positioned herself between the poachers and the tied-up Nathan. Her powerful body radiated a threat, and her eyes were focused on the armed men. The poachers started to back away slowly, not taking their eyes off the massive predator. The snow crunched under their feet, and each sound triggered another warning growl from the bear. Her behavior was unusual. She didn't attack but wouldn't let them approach Nathan either. One poacher panicked and reached for his rifle, but the bear's threatening growl and imposing stance made them hesitate. Her sheer size and strength were undeniable, and fear finally overtook their desire for revenge. "Let's go," the leader shouted, and the poachers fled, abandoning their gear in the snow as their footsteps faded into the blizzard. The bear stood motionless, watching the retreating figures with tense vigilance. Only when they were gone did she turn to Nathan. Despite her gentle movements, his heart raced. This massive predator could end him with a single swipe. Yet, there was no aggression, only surprising calm in her approach. She stopped a few steps away from Nathan and sniffed. There was recognition in her eyes. She remembered the scent of the man who had saved her and her cub. The bear tilted her massive head, her black nose almost touching the snow as she sniffed at the ropes binding Nathan's hands. Suddenly, the blizzard intensified, reducing visibility to nearly zero. But the bear seemed to be waiting for this. In the relative cover of the swirling snow, she cautiously moved closer to the ropes. Her warm breath thawed Nathan's frozen hands. Nathan was astonished as the bear gently chewed through the ropes binding him. Her powerful teeth, capable of tearing through sealskin, worked with delicate precision, avoiding his skin. Knot by knot, she freed him, then stepped back, waiting for him to gather himself. Nathan stood, stretched his stiff limbs, and whispered, "Thank you." The bear tilted her head as if she understood, and in that moment, an extraordinary connection was forged between them. This bond was born of mutual salvation. The predator, known for its ferocity, had not only recognized Nathan, but also repaid a debt by saving his life. After a brief pause, the bear turned and disappeared into the snow-covered tundra, leaving behind only footprints and an incredible story of compassion and memory in the harsh Arctic wilderness. For Nathan, the encounter was life-changing. It reshaped his understanding of wild animals, showing him that even the most fearsome creatures were capable of gratitude and kindness. In a land dominated by survival instincts, he had witnessed the possibility of a remarkable connection between human and beast. What an incredible story! If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment below. See you in the next video.